Oh, there we go. Backwards. So, bull markets, bear markets. I don't do any of my entrepreneurial sort of startup things. I don't start new projects when we're in bull markets. Everything I start is when we're in, call it bear or soft markets. Because when the markets become bull in nature, obviously we're all doing well financially, but the market becomes very irrational. Poor decisions are made. It tends not to produce good results. Capital becomes accessible to projects in a way where the markets just become untenable, though it's very good for looking at what your net worth is in the short term. So I'm a big fan of bull markets. I mean, in the sense that they do that. And then the following bear markets when they arise, because it kind of cleans up the crowd. What happens in the bull markets is all the cockroaches come out, all of the people that shouldn't be in the business, the fair weather people that are here just to make a buck, that don't even understand what it is that we're here to do, because everybody wants to get it while the getting's good. The bear markets basically purge the community of those people that are not here for the right reasons, the people that are not here with actual conviction around the things that they're doing. And this is when the real work is done. This is when the great things are built. And I will give you some really compelling reasons why it won't stay bearish forever, and certainly not for too long. I want to talk briefly just about the financing piece of this, because most people associate me with some aspect of that. Back to this industry had no capital really up until 2012, when the first investments were being made in Bitcoin or blockchain-centric startups. In 2013, meaningful capital started to be deployed. By 2014, we were bringing in capital on par with the internet in 1995. By 2015, we were bringing in capital that was on par with the internet in 1996. It then went flat because the VCs said, where are the revenues? Where are the exits? Where are the revenues? Where are the exits? The things that they typically rely on to want to continue investing. And so the market went flat. This is obviously when the ICO market started to take off. I was one of the founders of Mastercoin, which was the first ICO back in the summer of 2013. Which was before these charts. But during that period where venture capital was available, all the entrepreneurs wanted the smart money. They wanted the venture money. The ICOs were really just more an experimentation amongst projects that either couldn't receive venture capital, and this was the crowdfunding model of last resort, or projects that fundamentally didn't want to take venture capital and actually believed in the utility token concept, specifically a project like Ethereum that could have raised venture from Andreessen Horowitz, Sequoia, anyone they wanted, but they knew that wasn't the right path for them in the long run. And so Ethereum really set the stage for what made this all possible. The DAO is what made everyone pay attention. That's when entrepreneurs said, wait, this is better than venture capital. The DAO raised $150 million plus in a short period of time. Wait, I like this. And this is when all the entrepreneurs woke up, and this is what we've witnessed over the last whatever year. The market for ICOs went crazy, way beyond what they should have ever done. Projects taking in more capital than they needed, capital coming into projects that didn't have the capability to execute. Many of these things are early on just being white papers and a couple of engineers bringing in resources that didn't make any sense. And naturally, when the markets, start to, veer away far from, anything rational, there's going to be a correction, which is, what we've seen here. What went up has now come down, and the ICO market for the moment is more or less dead. It won't stay that way, but we're likely to see a transition away from utility tokens being the primary means of ICOs. And there's going to be a few reasons why that is. I like to put this number into perspective for people, and that is that when the internet was first taking off in 97, 98, 99, 2000, call it the internet 1.0 or the dot-com bubble period, the public equities of these technology companies got to 6.7 trillion. We're at about 202 billion today in the overall crypto market of market caps. So on a relative basis, this is still in its infancy from a market perspective. Even as we were reaching our peaks at the highs of the market, it was still barely scratching the surface of the past. What's very interesting, though, is what security tokens are going to do. So I was also one of the founders of the first security token. We did that with Blockchain Capital, which was the first venture fund in the space, which I co-founded. And so for our third fund, I wanted to experiment with a security token. I've been telling entrepreneurs for a year or two that this is a model that they should consider, because some people want rights, some people want dividends, some people want ownership, some people want royalties, some things like when we talk about media properties. If you wanted to put music, intellectual property on the blockchain where people have access to revenues or sales, that automatically makes you a security. A security is a very broad thing. And so it was clear to me that there would be security tokens. I was encouraging people for a year or two to do it. No one did. And so eventually I had to do it myself. I try not to do anything if I can teach others how to do it instead. But sometimes people need a roadmap. They need an example from which they can follow. So we ran a small experiment, raised a $10 million fund called BCAP, utilizing Regulation S, Regulation D. We're going to see some really interesting things happen with Reg A and Reg A+. But I think this is going to be a very big deal, and this is where we're starting to see the beginning of it. And so when you think about that last slide of that 6.7 trillion, in the market of security tokens, it doesn't even have anything to do with cryptocurrency as we know it. It has to do with blockchain technology, where we can now create more efficient systems that will securitize all of the world's assets, meaning the entire stock market is going to be tokenized over time. The NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange, London Stock Exchange, Toronto, Australia, Hong Kong, etc., Tokyo, all of those businesses are going to fail as they're currently architected. Some of them will evolve and upgrade themselves into this new system, but all of the world's equity markets as they exist currently are going to fail. And that is because they run on local markets, 9 to 5 on weekdays, using really slow, really expensive, insecure technology, versus global markets that run 24/7 using the most secure, efficient technology the world's ever seen. You can't. This is inevitable. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of time, and it can be done compliantly, which means everything is going to be tokenized from an equities perspective over time. But that also doesn't mean just the stock markets. It also means the debt markets and bonds. All of these things will be securitized with this technology. Commodities, real estate. We're going to be watching this technology securitize all of the existing things that we currently use, which is far bigger than any of the things that we're building today. The stuff we're building today, in most instances, is the stuff of the future. But the stuff of the past is also going to be along for this ride. So that should be one reason everybody should be very excited. We're going to watch trillions of dollars come into this market utilizing blockchain technology. Another thing that is worth noting is most people don't realize the internet is broken. The internet is broken. That would confuse most people. When the internet was first being architected, the cryptography needed to secure it was known. But the computer processing at the time was inadequate. They didn't have the processors to implement it. And so as the early internet was being developed and the things were being built, by the time the processing power caught up with the known cryptography needed to secure it, it was already too far developed. And they didn't really want it secure. Everybody wanted backdoors. It was something that was desired by, call it some people. Now fast forward to today, the internet is broken, and the blockchain is essentially going to be the tool that adds the security layer to the internet that is going to allow the real sort of internet 2.0, 3.0, whatever metric, whatever term you want to use to exist, which is we're going to secure the entire thing, along with all the immutability and other things that the blockchain provides. But the security layer is really going to be the primary driver, because we can't afford to live in a world where all of our systems are so hackable. I don't know how many of you have been following the news this week, but everything is hacked. And everything is so easily hackable. Everything that is on the internet is essentially available to governments and individuals that want access to it and are willing to put forth any effort. And that's only going to become more so, and that's going to become more automated over time, meaning the entire internet is broken. It needs to be upgraded, which means everything on the internet today is going to have to be redeveloped with this as part of the technology stack. And that's going to create, again, a tremendous amount of opportunity. You are still sitting at something that is probably, in terms of the impact on the world, something larger, probably by an order of magnitude than the internet. So we're still early. This is still just the beginning. I want to talk briefly. How many of you are familiar with sacred geometry? How many of you know what the 5 Platonic solids are? So these are the 5 Platonic solids. And so Socrates was a member of a mystery school known as the Eleusinian Mystery School, and he shared this knowledge with Plato and people, and he was killed for it because he swore an oath never to share this knowledge. And so Plato took the things that he had learned from Socrates and encrypted it into stories and images and things as a way not to violate sacred oaths. But these are the elements, and this information is far more important than most people would realize. Go take a time to go Google some of this stuff, look up spirit science, for example. But I want to talk about a couple of newer pieces of sacred geometry that were only rediscovered more recently. One of them is the chestahedron. Some of you might know that as the logo of Eos, but it's in the same vein as a 7-sided Platonic solid. Obviously, it's not a Platonic solid for 2 reasons. One, Plato didn't name it, and second, it's 2 shapes. But the decatria is another thing that sits directly inside it, but the geometrics, the degrees of it are exactly that of the Earth, which is interesting because the chestahedron is the sacred geometry of the heart. And that the Earth can fit perfectly inside the heart is interesting, and I'll fast forward to that in a moment, but there's deep meaning behind these things and the symbols that are often used. I'll talk for a moment about one of the things that I helped put together recently, which is a thing known as the EOS Alliance, which is known as the EOS Foundation in China. It's the non-profit sort of organization that's helping to facilitate communication amongst all the various parties. Obviously, Blockcon was the company that created the EOS mainnet software, the open source software. Blockcon didn't launch EOS, they just released the software to the community so that the community could launch it. They're not trying to be the organization that runs EOS for a number of reasons, but that creates a little bit of an issue. Then you have the block producers that represents the governance of the ecosystem, which is more decentralized than most of the other systems that are out there today. Whatever you've heard is wrong, do your research. Because all of these systems are still struggling with how to perfect decentralization. But block producers obviously are competing for votes. And so they've got their biases. And so how is someone, as a member of the EOS community, supposed to know what the issues are, what they should be doing, and how they can be most helpful, and where they should be focused? There's a bit of a vacuum in terms of communication. So this nonprofit is focused on facilitating conversation, organizing conversations amongst the various constituents so people can figure out, okay, what do I care about? What are my opinions on things so that the community can make the best decisions possible? This was only launched on August 18th, so 18. And we've done quite a bit since then. We've got calls, which if you're a member of the EOS community, I'd recommend you join in on these. They are highly attended by the people that are the most engaged in the ecosystem. We've created working groups around all of the, call it, core issues that exist. In China alone, obviously this isn't just China, but China is obviously, for those of you in this space, a very important aspect of our market. There's 10 different working groups that are focused on arbitration and making sure that the Chinese community's opinions on how arbitration should develop are there, the intent of code, the VP voting and collusion and other issues that might arise, open source enforcement, the Constitution, all of the things that, referendums, these things are being decided by the community. And so this organization is trying to facilitate conversations so that we can be as effective as a community as possible, entirely as a nonprofit. And the first election, there was 7 founding board members, which are the people that helped put this together along with the management team. But the intent was to create this for the community and to give it to the community. And so over the course of the first year, every founding board member will be replaced through an election process. Acon's on the board. We have 7 awesome people that are representative of kind of as much of we could of the people around the world, but the first election is in December. And so for those of you in the EOS community that are interested in getting involved, now is the time to start thinking about that. And for those of you that are in it, try and join some of these calls.